Thank you. Well, welcome everybody to our Morgan City Council meeting, July 23rd, 2024. At 7:04 instead of 7. Work meeting was canceled. We'd like to welcome everybody and appreciate you being here. Let's see. I've got a little bit of a variation from just the pledge and our prayer, and hopefully it'll come up, Denise. Yeah, we'll have that, and then Jeffrey, could you lead us after this in the pledge? And Dave, can you give a prayer?
Yes.
I played that video for me. I think I needed that. I think our nation needs that. So it really helps me, to reflect a few things. And, so I was just appreciative that tomorrow we celebrate a wonderful holiday. Could I have an approval of the meeting's agenda? Second. Okay, we have, see Jeffrey, he made the motion, Tony seconded for the meeting, all in favor?
Aye.
Denise, that's unanimous. On the consent agenda, the warrants from 07/02/24 to 07/19/24. Is there any discussion or?
Got one question,
Okay,
maybe for Ty, or Denise, there's a refund to Katie Caldwell, $2,600 on the first page. I'm just wondering what that was.
I'll have to look that one up. I can do that while we're sitting here.
That's all I have.
did you say that's all you have?
Yes.
Okay.
Mayor,
Me,
in light of that, I will make a motion that we approve the warrant dated July 2nd, 2024 through July 19th, 2024.
I'll second that, Mayor.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Hey Denise, that's unanimous. Okay, section 3, we have a time here for some citizen comments. And I want you to know, very grateful that you're here. I wish that was this way for every meeting. Seriously, it's like you're sometimes talking to the wind, but, so we'll kind of hold it to 3 minutes for comment and under around 30 minutes total. So if you'd like to step up to the podium and make sure the green light's on and just state your name. And what else, Denise? Do you need an address? Okay.
Is everybody signed in on the paper? Okay. Go ahead.
Ernie Durant, currently living in a van down by the river. 13 North Commercial Street. So some questions came up and people started talking in relationship to a new zoning type ordinance that's in place now. And our understanding was it was put in place for a specific piece of property over town, so to speak. But now a developer is looking to put that in over in the residential zone. So, you know, that's the reason we are here, and lots of others have lots of questions about that process, and obviously feel that that's not the proper place for the cloud to come in. I think that's how it was explained to us. This zone is kind of like a cloud, and you can just fly it over the city and drop it somewhere and build those type of units next to a residential area like that. So there's been a lot of discussion, a little bit of organization put together, but we also want to make sure we understand and are educated and want to be able to ask the right questions. Don't want to fly off the handle, but things have changed, you know, since I had the opportunity to be here as well. So appreciate the hard work that you guys do, and appreciate you representing the people that put you in there. So thanks for your time and efforts, and we'll try to stay on top of what's going on, and thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments? Okay. We appreciate that, Ernie. Tonight, we have a presentation from Mike Anderson and Active Power Engineering. We're grateful you're here. So we'll turn some time over to you.
Ready to go up to bring one over?
Yeah.
And in order to reach my buttons, is it okay if I sit here and
You bet.
talk through it? Okay. Well, as you said, my name is Mike Anderson. My company is Active Power Engineering. I've been working with the power department on various projects, but what we've done recently is to put together a plan for the power system that would put together the needs of the Morgan City power system for the next 5 to 10 years. Plus, with what we've done with that work, we've taken that into an impact fee study. And I'll talk a little bit about those each tonight. So the impact fees, the why and the how of impact fee is that the new power customers would shoulder the cost of the power infrastructure that's required to serve them as they come in. That the existing power customers don't bear the cost of new power infrastructure that's needed for those new customers or that new growth. And what we do with that is we prepare an impact fee facility plan and an impact fee analysis. Those are required by Utah code for impact fees. I'm going to talk a little bit about each one of those, the impact fee facility plan or an IFFP, and to talk about an impact fee analysis. So for the impact fee facility plan, this is where the demands on the power system for future development are analyzed. And we look at those demands and see how can those be met. So we look at projects, or we look at upgrades and things that need to be done to the power system. And sometimes it's just the impact fee is going to be based on a portion of a project, because there'll be a project and part of it's going to support the growth, and then part of it's supporting what is already here now. The impact fee analysis is where we take what's in that impact fee facility plan and we proportionally allocate the cost of those projects, the new facilities that would be installed in the power system, and we allocate those to the new development that would be coming in, or the new demand on the power system that will be coming. So those are the two parts. I was going to talk about the process with the impact fee facility plan, or like I said, in this case, what we did was a capital plan for the power system. And we took the projects from that and took them into the impact fee facility plan. So we just did one system plan and we used it for two things. One, to capture the capital needs for the power system, and also to capture, since this is addressing growth, what should go into an impact fee facility plan. So this plan is not planning for resources or for kilowatt hours, the energy that people use. It is planning for the peak demand of the power that's going to be required in the system. And it looks at all the components of the system. We look at the substations, the substation transformers, the main distribution lines, the branch lines, everything that goes into running the power system, the protection of it, the settings on it. And we look at that whole system and identify issues that would come up because of growth that would be coming and needing to be served from the system. And the issues that can come up are things like overloaded lines, low voltage on the power system, which affects everybody on it, a low power factor. There's some issues that could come up with settings of equipment on that system. And we look at all the things that are issues and we develop plans to resolve those issues. And sometimes there's projects that are needed. And I look at those in conjunction with the guys who know the power system here, Clark, and he points out some of the things that could be issues, and we look at what are the possible solutions, and he guides some of the project toward putting in the new infrastructure that would be the most beneficial to the system overall, because he has the best knowledge of the system. So in the capital plan, when I'm preparing that, what I'll do is I'll take a look at what has the power demand been historically and how is it growing? And I gather all the information about the current power system. Like I say, I get the input from the people here. And we also do a thing called establishing a level of service. What is the power service to the citizens like right now? So we can maintain that same level of service. So there's no loss of the capacity, the capability, or the service of the power system because there's been more demand added to it. So we establish that level of service. We'll estimate what the power demand is likely to be in the future. So we get out crystal ball, but more I get information input from Clark about what he sees as the developments that are being proposed in the city. And we look at doing a forecast of into the future, what is the likely increase in demand in kilowatts. And I take the information of the system and I put it into a model in the computer. So I'll take each of the substations and the lines that connect the substations and the switches that are in the system, and I put that in the computer and then start adding things that represent where the new growth is likely to be. And then look at it. I fiddle with things in it and see what happens in different scenarios. So in that way, we're able to identify what issues may come up. we're able to take the solutions that we come up with and plug them in and see if they actually solve a problem. And we're able to plan projects that way, projects that are required. Or there may be some projects that are just desired by the power department. So we're able to look at those things in the computer before they actually get planned for, budgeted for, and built. We can have an assurance that they're going to address an issue. We document all that in a report. I do have hard copies of the report. If anybody would like to have hard copies, we've got some here that can be used and looked at. So I produced that report for the power department for Clark and for Ty. And then that capital plan, those projects, they transfer then into the impact fee facility plan. And we look at what portion of those projects, if it's the whole project that's attributable to growth, or if it's just a portion of that project that's needed due to growth, we'll analyze that and get the appropriate dollar value for those projects to be considered in calculating the impact fee.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Two of them, actually. So when you're looking at it, you're looking at I assume you're looking at the current city boundaries, is that right? Or are you taking into consideration any future annexation declaration, anything like that? Is that?
Yeah, I've referred to the general plan, and in discussions with Clark, we looked at what the likely overall boundaries are going to be years from now and considered those in this analysis.
Okay, all right. I had another question, but I think that kind of answered it. I was going to ask, when you're doing an impact fee analysis, I mean, how far out in your crystal ball are you looking? I mean, is it, I guess what I'm saying is, how often should an impact fee study be done?
Well, in answer to the first question, we look out 10 years, but because your information is better the closer you get to those out years, impact fees should probably be looked at. They could be looked at every year, but probably every 2 to 3 years for sure. They ought to probably be looked at because they're going to be influenced by inflation, the cost of the materials that go into projects that are needed, and just, are you really seeing the growth that was expected? So in specifically the impact fee facility plan that was produced, the things that go into that, we've included looking at the service area. So the areas within the city, as well as, like your question asked, the areas that could be annexed in the future. And we look at that forecast, that power demand analysis. So we are looking at how much power demand is going to increase over where we started within the analysis to, in this case, we got the out years to 2032. And we expected 5,844 kVA, or that's equivalent to basically kilowatts, that the increase is expected to be in roughly the 10-year time period. The level of service that was established is that, and Clark helped come to the conclusion of what level of service is there now that we'll maintain. And those that went into this plan are that all the load for the city can be served from just one substation. That the main lines have a maximum power flow on them of 400 amps. And that the system voltage has to stay within plus or minus 5% of the nominal voltage during normal operations. And that last one is kind of an accepted national standard. And you get to points where you're out of bounds on that when you've got a lot of load and you haven't gotten big enough lines or enough power capacity in the system. So that, and also in this impact fee facility plan, we've looked at the existing facilities and how much capacity remains in the system that's available for use by the growth. And in this case, it came up to 3,227 kVA or kilowatts. That's remaining capacity right now. And the limiting factor there is that for that contingency operation where you'd have only one substation feeding the whole town, you have this much capacity you could get to, and then you'd be beyond the limit of the transformer that's feeding, the one transformer feeding the whole city's load. So you saw the number was 5,000 and something expected for growth. The capacity remaining is only 3,000 and something available for growth. So there needed to be a plan for reaching that 5,000 with another 2,000 kVA or kilowatts to satisfy that future need. So the future facilities, when we put together all the projects in the capital plan, it came up to $21 million. And that's escalated prices for the year that those things were expected would be constructed. And we will take a percentage or a proportion of that total cost, because not all of those projects were going to be addressing growth. Some of those were desired projects for improvement in the system and not directly attributable to growth. So when we took that proportion, and that's where we get to the impact fee analysis portion of this study, we do that proportion and we come up with the cost of projects that are related to growth or needed for growth comes up to $3 million, $3,200,000 of impact fees facility plan projects. And this is where we begin to calculate what the impact fee for power should be. Because we take that 3,200,000 and we divide it by the total amount of projected growth in the demand of power, and we come up with a number that's dollars per added kVA or kilowatt of new load. And that number of the dollar per kVA is $545.08. And so that's called the impact fee rate. And the impact fee rate is used to make an impact fee calculation. And that impact fee calculation that we use is to take the estimated usage of power by a new customer. And that's going to be a certain number of kVA or kilowatts that new customer would likely to be used. We multiply that by the impact fee rate, the $545, and come up with a recommended assessed impact fee. And these are recommendations. When the city adopts it, it would become the assessed impact fee for that customer with that amount of load. So I have, in jumping to what those proposed or recommended impact fees would be, I have a slide here that comes out of the impact fee report. This table is for residential impact fees, and the most common residential service sizes are in the red block, and the recommended impact fee is in the right-hand column, showing that the customer that would be building a new home, adding to the load on the Morgan City power system with 150 amp service panel size, the recommended impact fee out of this study is $2,453. And then for the 200 amp service, $3,270. So those are the recommended impact fees for the customer that comes in requesting a certain size of service panel to feed their home. The same way as for businesses, though I didn't put a slide up here, the impact fee report has in there the complete tables of all the different panel sizes for residential and commercial, and the recommended impact fee that's calculated from those. And for comparison, some of the cities like to see how they compare to the impact fees that are assessed by other locales. You can see the Morgan proposed impact fees for 150 amp panels and 200 amp panels are the second set of bars from the left. Heber Light and Power is on the far left. The current Morgan impact fees are the next ones. And then you see Kaysville's and Hiram's. Hiram Cities is in the process right now of updating their impact fees. They haven't been updated for a long time. So that gives an idea of a comparison of those that I could find looking online at the city's websites that published what their impact fees were. So the next steps is to hold a public hearing about these proposed impact fees and for the council to adopt, modify, or reject these impact fees. And then if there's going to be any increase in the impact fees, the 90-day wait period would follow that. That's what I had for a presentation to you on the power impact fees, and I'm open to any questions.
I just have one, go ahead.
So one of your slides showed that the 21 million in, right?
Right.
But so there's 3 million attributed to growth or or is that new projects or
That's,
the portion of new growth on those projects, right?
yes.
Related to capacity. Increasing capacity.
Right.
So the 18 million then, the difference, the 18 million would be spent on improvements to the system that are needed, or I mean, give me some idea of what that money would be spent on, I guess.
Right. What we saw in the capital plan and in discussion with Clark and some recommendations I made, there are some projects that increase the reliability of the power system. In the power system in Morgan right now, there are a lot of areas where you have a line that feeds out of town, certain directions. And if you have a problem in that line, for example, everybody downstream on that line may be out of power. Some of the recommended projects are for tying those lines into another line so that you have more of a loop. So if you have a problem in one section of the line, you can always feed those customers back from another direction. So that was, there were a number of projects like that that went into the capital facility plan that improve reliability that aren't necessarily required for growth or for keeping a certain level of service. So those couldn't be included in the impact fee calculation. There are some other projects related to a possible transmission line connection and some other things that the power department was concerned about that were included in the capital facility plan, but couldn't be justified to bring over into the impact fee facility plan.
I think you answered my question.
Okay, good.
Mike, I'd like to ask a question, and I'm going to refer to the analysis on page 11, the summary of future power and system capital projects. As I read through the report, it seemed clear, if I understood it right or properly, that, and you've made reference to a couple of things here. One being that if out of our 3 substations, if 2 of them went down, we could still serve our community entirely. And it seemed like also that we had we still have good capacity, that there's maybe even as much as a third again, what we have for our needs right for the moment. But I don't know, Denise, can you bring this up, the table there on page 11? Oh, well, this is your slideshow, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it can be taken down now unless there's questions from me, but if the report's brought up, we can discuss that.
Well, I can just read it here. So the question is, we've got in the number in the project, item 3C, says we need to add about 2 MVA generation capacity to a new generation distribution substation. And estimated cost, and that's looking out to 2027 of 16.8 million. But we said that the percent attributed to growth is 16.7% for a total of 2,817,000. If we have adequate capacity right now, and we're still looking at needing this other 16 million, that seems to me most of that's coming from growth. Shouldn't we have a bigger percentage than 17%?